The Renault 4 starts at €29,400, and today we'll explore how it handles in its first road test. With that, hey and welcome to this new video here with Jonas, and welcome to the first driving impression, as I just mentioned, of the Renault 4. R4, whatever you want to call it, a really cool retro car. Yeah, you've pointed it out in the comments, not quite as retro as the R5, but I think Renault really put in the effort. And just to say it up front, this front end with the illuminated Renault logo, the bordered grille design, and these full LED headlights comes standard, making a strong statement with a starting price of €29,400. It's now available to order in Germany, and while I showed it to you statically a few weeks ago, today I finally get to take it for a drive. That's why the roundup part will be a bit shorter, but the driving impression will be all the more intense. Unfortunately, I can't charge right now, I just don't have the time, but here during the event, I was able to charge the R5, and today I'm sharing the car with Tarek. He just got the R5, we'll ask him about the charging performance later. I'd say now let's take another quick look from the outside. I went through the comments under your last R4 video, and I can understand some of the criticism that was brought up as well. For example, why does the R4 cost more than the R5? Because back then, when the first R4 was released several decades ago, the R4 was cheaper. It was essentially an affordable, compact car for families. It still is, but nowadays, of course, a larger car costs more than a smaller one. And that's why the R4 also costs more than the R5. Even though they've kept the names from the old ones, there's a new pricing structure. Here that means the just mentioned €29,400 for 40 kilowatt hours, 308 kilometers according to WLTP, and 90 kilowatts of power, or 120 horsepower. That's why it's called the 120 version. The 150, meaning 150 horsepower or 110 kilowatts, comes with 52 kilowatt hours and costs only €3,000 more. It's probably the much more recommendable option. For those who consider it as a second car, focusing on trunk space and interior room compared to the R5, but not needing a large battery, could also go for the 40 version. The car would definitely benefit from having that as an option as well. 60 or 70 kilowatt hours would be ideal, but they're unavailable. The VW ID.3 is a key competitor. It starts with 52 kilowatt hours, so the larger battery at, without discounts, just over €30,000. These are directly comparable. However, it has more standard equipment. But with the ID.3, you also get features like an AR head-up display or a matrix function. I personally think it's good, but I'm genuinely curious to hear your thoughts about the pricing. The R4 is charged from the left, optionally with 80 or 100 kilowatts and standard with 11 kilowatts AC. The good thing is, both variants are supposed to charge in under 30 minutes, but I haven't charged it myself yet. That's why we're asking Tarek, my podcast partner. He's already had the chance to charge the 5 Rand. You already had it. Yours didn't crash.
No, it wasn't involved in a crash.
How did he behave around you back then?
Well, I can genuinely assure all of you, I've charged the R5 multiple times, and it consistently went from 10 to 80% in exactly 30 minutes. The Alpine A290 GTS, same charging technology, just like the Renault 5 or the Renault 4, exactly 30 minutes, 10 to 80, although it's worth noting, Renault claims it's 15 to 80, 30 minutes total.
That's better than their own claim. The question is, though, how far do you want to drive with it? I'd say recharging twice is fine, but depending on whether you have a small or large battery, you can quickly run out of time. Drive for an hour, charge for 15 minutes, probably or so. That's definitely quite time-consuming. You were just out with the Alpine. How did you find it?
Super cool car, it's incredibly fun, costs a damn lot, but it also offers a lot for the money, you have to be honest about that. But it also includes all the key features that significantly reduce the range. Wide body design, broad tires, sick rims, and an open wheel setup that impacts efficiency. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love the bike for it.
But in 2 weeks on my channel. Really?
Pretty nice, huh?
Cool.
A couple more words about the design. I just have to say it because Renault is really doing a great job here. And sometimes I wonder why other manufacturers aren't doing it as well. I could have shown you the Opel Frontera or most recently the Fiat Grande Panda. Yeah, price-wise, they're not too far off from this one, but they don't look nearly as cool, even though I did quite like the Panda. They're just missing a lot of EV features, which makes a big difference. Let's get into it right away while driving. For this one, I really like this homage to the old Q. It's not quite like the R5, as mentioned earlier, where it's really a one-to-one interpretation into the modern era. Here you can recognize it from certain elements, like this black section here, the additional window in the C-pillar, or of course this upright and distinctive front end. The design is truly cool, and I really like it just as it is. And a significant advantage, of course, compared to the R5 is that you get a much larger trunk here, 420 liters surpasses the ID3, which only provides 385 liters. There, you benefit from this space. The R5 has 326 liters, so almost 100 liters more. You can stack things nicely there. You see, we've really got a lot with us. There are 3 of us in the car right now. Tarek, Nas, and I share this car. It can get quite cozy inside, especially with all 3 of us. But when it comes to storage space for a weekend day trip, it's definitely more than enough. I think that's really cool. It tows 750 kilos and supports 80 kilos. That's also 17 more than the R5. And especially when you want to transport e-bikes, this works really well. And 750 kilos, few electric cars in this category have that. I think that's really sensible. But once again, feel free to share your thoughts and opinions on this in the comments. At some point, the car will undergo a comprehensive everyday test with me. That's when I'll try to fit the stroller in there. I'll place the child seat on the passenger seat because there's also an ISOFIX mounting system there. And I'll take it for a test drive to check if it could also work as a reliable and practical second car for families overall. If not as the main car, share your thoughts below if you have any. Amid all the praise for the commitment to electromobility with the R5 and R4 and the upcoming Twingo, there's still criticism, and that's where I don't understand. Why doesn't this have a frunk? I know, the electric motor already occupies a lot of space. It's front-wheel drive, the charger, all tucked up front here. But it could have been designed a bit more cleverly, or at least they could have added a compartment here because there's room up top to lay the charging cable flat. Some other manufacturers do that, and I would have liked to see it here, probably a cost factor due to the construction, but I think there will definitely be some aftermarket solutions for this. By the way, it's entirely manufactured in France. Back in the day, trends in automotive engineering included interior design, materials, and much more. Today, it's all about the software, how to get a piano finish, or whether the driver's seat can fold. And that's the case with more and more small vehicles. The Insta already had it, and now so does the R4. This allows me to transport items up to 2.20 meters long inside the vehicle. I find it very practical and makes a car even more versatile. You can see that, for example, with the ID, one concept from Volkswagen. When it comes to software, the F4 also knows how to impress. Thanks to AirLink with Google systems, specifically Google Automotive, you get seamless app integration, Google navigation, including Google Maps, and a wide range of additional features available. However, not in the base model. That comes with a higher trim level, but it then offers really smart features like electric vehicle route planning, for example. And the piano lacquer theme? Well, here in the middle area, where I touch a lot, there isn't any. Up there in the visible area around the air vents. But I don't touch that too often, and also here at the front, where there's a bit of ambient lighting hidden, that's where the piano lacquer is. But it's still harmonious, and I also like the material feel on its own. It could have been left out, but at least it's not where I constantly have my hand, except on the steering wheel, where everything shines in glossy black. The button layout for controlling all the assistance systems is clever, but it does attract fingerprints. The driver's seat stays adjusted for my height, and there's really good space behind it. At 1.73 meters, it's still not the biggest challenge, but in this compact segment, it's really good. And here, the whole design has this denim-like material with brown stitching, really well done and stylish. And I have plenty of space. The door, yeah, it's close to me, but they've really designed the backrest sections well, and there's ISOFIX in the back, and like I mentioned earlier, I find it very, very important and perfectly ideal for this vehicle size. 2 USB-C ports, ample storage space, and great all-around visibility. There's still this folding roof if it's not installed. There's a nice checkerboard pattern right in the ceiling. Not much more is needed. And that way, you can comfortably fit 3 in the back, but usually 2, and 4 adults can easily ride along like this. Now, let's see how it drives. Before I take the wheel, I'll let Tarek give me a quick ride and stay in the back briefly. And I noticed something else. There are these small LED lights up here. It's just clever because when you have the folding roof, they need to go somewhere. And they're positioned right up here at the top, shining over your shoulder directly onto whatever you want to focus on. I think it's not bad at all. And no, the suspension isn't incredibly harsh or uncomfortable, making it perfectly drivable on Tarek's. No, that's the terrain. Because to get to the exact spot where we just filmed, the road wasn't exactly paved or smooth.
Turn around, face me right now. Make it 10 euros, please.
Now for real, let's get moving forward, and we'll begin with the stop-and-go traffic situation ahead. Actually, it's a really cool scenario for electric cars since one-pedal driving enables you to recuperate energy all the way to a complete stop without even needing the brakes. And now, for the first time, it's also possible in the R4. I can shift down to the one-pedal mode using the paddle shifters. Then it's also shown as active on the right side of the display. At the bottom, the small battery icon changes into a one-pedal label, and I can come to a complete stop here, and it works really well. Now I'm standing, bam, can check, is someone at the crosswalk? Nope. And I can just go ahead and drive right in here. And the old Zoe makes some space, It's genuinely convenient, especially when navigating through urban city streets. And this is precisely the kind of scenario where the R4 fits perfectly, and the R5 does as well. The R5 can't do it yet, but I'm curious to see if it might come through an update at some point. I'll ask once more about it, and if I find out anything new, I'll include it right at this point. We just Googled it in parallel. Apparently the Megane is about to receive a product upgrade or an update, and with that, it'll also get one-pedal driving. Renault recognized the demand and implemented it, and I think that's great. It fits perfectly with my recent video where I said, hey, I think it even came out yesterday, depending on when this goes live. Don't believe the manufacturers. And that was partly because I said, if someone promises an update or a feature for later, it's better to stay skeptical and cautious. Then I wouldn't buy a car because the feature might come at some point, but only buy what's actually available right now. And right now, one-pedal driving is available, and I think that's really great. If Renault had said, hey, we'll deliver that later, I would have said at that point, if it's not there yet, I wouldn't order it if one pedal wasn't included. Hope you get my point. On the lower right side of the steering wheel, you'll find the multi-sense button. From there, I can cycle through the various driving modes, and here in sport mode, I'll quickly accelerate to 100 in the 150 horsepower version. South. The initial pull isn't instant, but once it gets rolling, it's actually quite decent. That's how I describe it. Now let's drop it briefly here again. 80 and back on it. There goes Tarek with his Red Bull. It's working. Honestly, I think it's really not bad. What can you expect with 150 horsepower? It's not like you've got some kind of electric rocket here. But in combination with the torque and the immediate responsiveness, it can actually be a lot of fun. I also wouldn't expect, given the body design and overall size of the car, that it would pin me brutally to the seat right now. It does a little bit though. I think that's pretty cool. Only downside, I should mention it at this point before we go into more detail about the suspension. It lifts the front a bit too much for me, so it really sinks a lot at the back. It's a front-wheel drive vehicle, I mentioned it earlier, but it really lifts up a lot. Even here, pressing down on the gas downhill, and it lifts the front way up. It's a bit of a shame, since there are other cars that sit significantly lower to the ground, but this one likely offers better overall comfort, especially on the rougher and uneven roads here in Portugal. Back here in the hinterland, there are indeed a few opportunities to take things a bit more twisty and spirited for a while. And here it surprisingly handles quite well, so I've kept it sporty with the responsiveness, and let's see what it's really capable of here. We're obviously not driving on mountain passes, we're not crossing the Alps either, but to get a sense of it, it's more than enough. The surface here is also better, it seems freshly paved, you hardly feel any bumps, so it's clearly been designed to be exceptionally comfortable and smooth overall. But I also like the suspension in the R5. The only difference here compared to the R4 is the height, because the car is built higher. That means we also have a higher position suspension, and I suspect longer suspension travel. And that essentially causes the car to lift more noticeably from the front axle, which, as a direct consequence, also resulted in this pronounced lifting effect during acceleration. I don't think that's bad. You could have guessed that just by looking at the car from the outside. I just really want to emphasize at this point that I haven't experienced any issues at all with the slip today. We don't see any wheel spin whatsoever or him having trouble getting proper traction onto the road. But that'd be odd with just 150 horsepower. Still, it's worth noting, as it's often a point of criticism, like with the front-wheel drive Kia EV3, but with 204 horsepower instead of just 150 and a bit more torque overall. That really makes a noticeable difference. But even if there are a few more uneven spots here or some manhole covers that are significantly lower than the road surface, it still handles surprisingly well. The car really handles it well and forgives a lot, and I can imagine that this is truly the optimal setup for most people out there, offering a smooth and reliable driving experience. It's not too soft or comfortable, but it's also not jarringly stiff, which you might have experienced, for example, with the older Zoe, which simply wasn't designed to handle the weight of an electric car. All of this, it does much better here. For all of you, and I know that's most of you, who get annoyed when you're reminded even just 1 km/h over the speed limit, that's it. Going just 1 km/h over the speed limit, they've come up with something clever here. On the left, there's an assistance system button, and that lets me switch between all on. So all assistance systems active and my perso. And there, I can set, for example, that I personally don't like being reminded, so it gets deactivated. Just one click at the start, twice, once for the instructor function, and then once more to confirm, and that's it. Then you won't be reminded anymore, which is great. It's really smart and cool that the button is conveniently placed right there, and it's not one that says turn off sign recognition or anything like that, like you've seen now with, for example, Fiat as well. No, this is a theoretically customizable button. That means Renault could also decide at some point, hey, we'll put something else on there. But I think that's really smartly done. Now, onto the highway. But before that, just quickly, no. We won't be providing actual consumption figures for 130 during this video or test, 120 or city driving, simply because we don't have enough time during these driving events. We'll talk later about the overall consumption. We started today at 100%, now we're down to 67. But that's just an initial indicator of where things are roughly heading for now. On the highway, I had the chance to try out the assistance systems. Everything is controlled on the left-hand side of the steering wheel. It handles the curves really well, like this long sweeping right turn at 105 kilometers per hour. It's managing it perfectly fine. But I can click this top button here, and then it automatically jumps to the preset 120 kilometers per hour. I think it's really cool that this is just so smartly controlled through the steering wheel, and on top of that, I can also press and hold the button, and then next to the 120, the current speed, an A in brackets appears, and that means the speeds are automatically taken over by the system. Whether GPS-based or through camera recognition, the car autonomously adjusts and controls its speed entirely on its own. And that worked pretty reliably here today as well. For example, even during exits, where the extra speed like an 80 for the exit was set, it didn't take that speed over. What it does particularly well is the automatic adjustment in advance. For instance, it just recognized that there's 100 coming up for the bridge here now and slowed me down a little beforehand. And there are other systems that only adjust the speed once the sign is actually there. Of course, it also depends on whether it already knows the speed limit, if it can detect it ahead of time, but here, in some instances, it has actually worked quite smoothly. Regarding the driver information display, just to add, it's identical to the R5. Here, I can switch through the various displays using the right-hand area. It's also nicely animated how it sort of flows through. You can choose between a reduced view, an assistance display, a power meter, or even have the navigation map shown on the screen. I find that really cool, something I miss in many cars. Not having the small nav map in the display, it's always been key for me. It actually just recently bothered me, for example, in the Audi A6, which we took to Croatia. The video will be coming out in just a few weeks, so make sure to subscribe to the channel right now so you don't miss it later. Now, moving on to what we've used today, but first, a quick and important note. I think it's really cool that Renault has integrated this on the right side so you get a minimum range. So after driving 140 kilometers on the highway, the car estimates that I can get 261 kilometers in the city. And I find that very, very cool, while I'm taking the milling edge more centered here, so you can get a better feel for it, not just having a range based on the last few kilometers driven. No, an actual estimate of where it can go. If I know now I have to hit the highway with 63%, maybe I can still go 140 kilometers, and that seems pretty realistic to me. If you're not going crazy speeding on the highway, because today, on the roughly 110 kilometers we drove, I take a look, we had an average consumption of 15.8 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. That's really good. Yeah, we didn't drive too many stretches of country roads and highways this time. We're also a bit along the coast, but it's a good mix of a bit of urban driving. And then there's still a pretty significant portion, I'd say maybe around 40 kilometers or so spent on the highway. For that, the value is really good. Everything else will have to prove itself in everyday use. And with that, we come to the conclusion, and I've deliberately positioned myself in front of the R5 again to show you both vehicles side by side, because they are really, really similar. Personally, from my current situation, I would find the R4 more interesting because you can realistically fit the stroller in there, because it's more family-friendly. Visually, though, I definitely prefer the R5. He's just a small, cuddly, very cool city cruiser. When it comes to the R4, I have to say my initial impression has been absolutely spot on. The car really knows how to impress. I just can't wrap my head around this pricing issue. You get a lot in the base model. The upgrade for the larger battery is completely reasonable at 3,000 euros. The suspension is quite similar to the R5, a bit more tuned up, but I'm really eager to see how it performs in everyday driving conditions. I've already reached out to Renault, and the car is expected to appear on the channel soon for a real-world test. If you don't want to miss it, make sure to subscribe below, and up here, you'll find my initial thoughts on the R5.